We'll now be starting with the first session for the evening, and that would be on location-based marketing and advertising in the new normal. So I'll request Bjoern Bremer to join us. He's the CEO and Chief Creative Officer at Ogilvy Group, Germany. We have Maria, who is the Head of Media and Advertising at Montblanc. Please join us. And we have Benoit, who is the CEO, Near EU, and Global Privacy Officer. Okay, so we have only two of the speakers right now, so please join, guys. I'll request Bjoern to kindly start with his presentation.
Right. Good morning, everyone, online and offline, and this new normal. My name is Bjoern, as you just heard. I'm more of a creative than a CEO. So this next 15 minutes will be quite awkward for a lot of you, because it's going to be about pretty pictures. And you may want to ask the question, why is this guy here or dude here? So it's very simple, actually. You have all seen us in your LinkedIn? Yeah. Yes? Yeah, all right. No, I'm basically the button. I turn visualized data. You collect data, then you arrange data, then you visualize them, and I turn them into stories. Okay? The problem with stories is they can be very different, although you have the same input. And some of them are obviously more successful than others. No disrespect to Asterix and Obelix, but they are slightly less popular than The Simpsons, for instance. But it comes from the same product, in this case, Lego briquettes. So what does turning especially location data into something exciting and making a difference can do? So what we are basically doing is turning data, turning into information, into selling stories. And that's why I'm actually here, because I'm using the last yesterday and tomorrow basically to understand what's available, what we can use, what we can digest, what lawyers will kill us using, right? It wouldn't be nice to, if you were Nike, just touch you. Imagine you get a push notification from Nike. Oh, you had lunch at McDonald's. You should really go running this afternoon. You would never talk to Nike again. So there are borders that we shouldn't cross. But here's some stuff that we do. And we actually believe, not just that 80% of all data has a where in it, it can be the most impactful trigger of all. And I hopefully convince you in the next 5 minutes or 8 minutes why this is the case. So here's something we did for IKEA in the UAE. The thing with IKEA is it's actually quite far and outside cities because they have huge stores. And when you live in a city, you have to go. I believe in New York, there's even a bus that goes to IKEA. So we said, we should really reward people for coming a long way. And this idea that we came up with is called Buy With Your Time. How does it work? As I said, those superstores are usually quite far out town. And during the checkout, we literally ask customers to show us their Google Time Maps. There is a timeline function where you can see how long somebody traveled. And then based on that, we converted time into money based on the average income of families. So this is a little film. So 49 minutes would get you this. A hot dog is 5 minutes. We would show people, Dubai, it's very quick, but you get the whole idea. So in this particular case, we obviously used a lot of location data, where people are coming from, how far they are traveling, to build up a whole system about the exchange rate of time into money. That's just something we can do with location data. Another example, if you're not convinced yet, is we did this global campaign that some of you may have seen or not seen, which during the pandemic called Courage is Beautiful. And it was a big hype. But the problem with global campaigns is often there's no proximity. And when you live in Mexico City and you see a nurse from Boston, you don't care about the nurse. Or when you live in Boston, you certainly don't care about somebody in Augsburg in Germany, let alone you know where it comes from. So what we did is, and I hope you can listen to this.
Hospitals worldwide thank healthcare heroes at work.
Basically,
I was like, wow,
we used
that's me.
location
That's
data
us.
to do billboards. These are all the people next to their hospitals. And then started sort of a local PR campaign about this. So all these people, this is the nurse in the hospital you're probably born, or your child is born, or this is a person etc. So although this is really span around the globe, we cut this down to very sort of localized things to make sure that proximity is given, and all of a sudden the relevance spiked significantly. And then, because there's no sound, we're gonna jump straight to this. This not just works for ads, but it also works for, not just for ads and communication, also for businesses as well. And this is a story of selling electric cars. And this is where usually when we start a project, we get this kind of data. Early adopters, social media usage, yada, 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 sustainability funnel, blah, 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 blah. They're interested in this. They're 16 years, blah, 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 blah. These are the brands that they love, All right? So then we were asked to sell this car, which is an electric car. Obviously, you would say, yes, correct. Urban, early adopters, great, young, trendy brand, tick, 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 tick. Right, what's the problem? The problem is the charging station. If you live in a city, you don't get any more charging stations. They're all full. If you live in a city, it usually takes you about half an hour on average to find a parking lot. To find a parking lot where you can actually charge your car takes literally 24 hours, right? So why do you sell to people that cannot charge their car? So this is the information that we need, right? We don't go into the city, we go into the suburbs. Suburbs, people have houses, there is space, you can cooperate with electricity companies, they can have their own charging station, etc. They have a 10 to 15 mile commute, which is excellent for electric cars. And all of a sudden, when we went from inside cities to suburbs, whoosh, okay? That for us is one of the best examples why location data can make such a difference. And it doesn't really matter if you're a girl or a guy, or if you're interested in X brand or Y brand. So we believe, as I said, it's one of the most powerful tools. And there are plenty of possibilities to turn different data into something exciting. And I hope I just give me a little glimpse into what we do.
Thank you so much. That was a really interesting presentation, and thank you for showing all of the use cases, not just for covering the entire spectrum of applications. Thank you so much. I'll now request Maria to kindly come up on the stage.
Hello everyone, my name is Maria Plessen. I'm the Global Head of Media and Advertising for Montblanc, the German luxury goods company. You might know it mostly for the pens, leather bags, watches as well. And I've been working at Montblanc for over 4 years and was previously at Amazon and Google, so I come from the technical point of view, and I brought in the past years my expertise into the premium and luxury industry. And I'm overseeing 22 markets, have a team of more than 20 people, and where I'm here today and where I see a very strong need and also push in the last years is the increased usage of data, of course, in everything we do in terms of media activations. I hired 5 data scientists and analysts and also location-based scientists in the last month. So I think the trend is pretty obvious, and especially in the luxury industry where we have been very conservative for a long time. It's now our really need to change and to transform. And where I have the most encounter also with location-based advertising is, of course, in the media strategies. So in terms of executions and the channels I'm overseeing, for example, in a display campaign, when we are advertising, let's say, pens around the globe, we are now implementing store locators because in the luxury industry in general and also for Montblanc, more than 80% of the revenue is still being generated over offline. So you have mostly boutique sales, you have phone sales, you have a very, very strong offline network. And even with COVID, this trend accelerated for e-commerce sales, but still could not compensate the strong loss we suffered offline, because it is indeed a very high price point product and the customer wants to touch and feel. It's nothing which changes overnight or during a pandemic. And because of this, we are implementing wherever we can offline trackers, offline touch points in our media campaigns and advertising strategies. And one of the examples here is the boutique locator, which we're implementing in our assets. So whenever we have a banner live in a display campaign, we also always want to ensure our boutique network, including wholesale partners, are also listed to ensure we don't only track online to online, but also online to offline sales, and by that also the incremental ROI. Then secondly, now also some social media platforms such as Facebook, LinkedIn are offering the offline sales location, which is also great for us to see. We do have to work with our CRM, so with our customer database here, to upload afterwards and match basically which customer bought due to the advertisement campaign we brought out there. Brought maybe the product we advertised, maybe completely different product. So this also gives us good insights on the customer journey and which products really sell, let's say, online and which mostly sell offline. And then the next part is Google store visits. So I think most of you know that also after an advertising campaign, we can see how many people have been brought to store, or at least very, very close, with proximity filters to our boutique locations. And then also, I think what you already mentioned, very similar, we did a programmatic out-of-home campaign. So we also advertised where we know our mark makers, our key target audience is present after we identified the locations with a persona study. So also here we are now trying to connect more and more the dots between online and offline, between the different media channels. And indeed, I think it's more possible than you would think in the initial state. And then lastly, to bring all of this together, we are now also executing attribution modeling. So this is a bit more technical, a bit more complex topic. But basically, we want to see the impact of our online and advertising strategies onto not only online, meaning e-commerce sales, but also how many people bought something via phone afterwards, how many people went to the boutique. So we are working with different partners for a unique caller ID when someone is calling our customer service due to an advertisement campaign. We are also working with offline data onboarders to onboard and match our CM audiences and the email addresses we generated due to sales during the advertisement campaign. And then lastly, we have an attribution partner who is supporting us in making sense out of all of these different information points. And we have now already seen strong results. And for us, on a global scale, paid social was one of the key channels which actually supported our offline sales. And social media is often undervalued and is seen as something more on an awareness scale. And here I have to say this was the strongest point for us to also help us to see the incremental return on advertisement spend. And yes, that's a quick summary of what I'm doing and where we are mostly bringing in the offline and also location-based data. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marie, and thank you for showing for explaining the entire workflow and telling where all location data plays an important role. Thank you so much for that. I'll now request Jamie to please give his opening remarks.
All right. Thank you. Just going to open. Do you know where it is?
This one?
Yeah. All right, so yeah, my name is Jaime Sanchez, or Jamie, that's fine too. And I'm from Carto, okay? I'm an account executive at Carto. So I basically handle many of our clients that do a lot of this location-based marketing and advertising. And today I'll ask a couple of questions to start and get the mood going. So has your office location changed changed now versus 1 year ago? Many of us, yes, right? We're working from home. Are you living in a different location versus 1 year ago? A lot of people are moving, right, to the suburbs. So perhaps, some of you are nodding, right? Are your shopping habits changed since 1 year ago or 2 years ago as well? Maybe we're buying more stuff. Maybe we're buying a puppy as well. So the whole concept that's happening right now is that our habits, our behavior is changing, right? As an example, 50% of the UK workforce is working remotely. Building amenities in apartments are changed to allow for people to work from home better. And people are looking for more spacious space where you can have a puppy run around, right? But have marketers, have Bjoern and Maria, have they changed their analytics to this new normal? It's a question. Maybe yes, like they have, but not many people have. And the problem also relies a lot with the data that we usually typically have used. In the world of e-commerce, it's one thing, but in the world of offline, it's another thing. But how can we mix both of them and get the best advantage of having the most up-to-date data in each of them? And so I was going to go through 7 reasons or 7 things that we've noticed as a technology provider, as a data provider, that people are doing in the industry. One of the things that has changed, and I think will not get back to what it was the spending behavior. And here's one example where we have a credit card spend on eating places in Lower Manhattan before lockdown and after lockdown. This is hitting retailers and restaurants really hard. But if we get to understand how and where this is happening, perhaps we can use more efficiently our marketing money. This is the same image, but for grocery and food stores. This also, mobility patterns change by the week. And this is still, we've passed already the worst part of the pandemic, but there's still countries that are going back into lockdown. And it's something that's not going to go away. So local and regional lockdowns are, top of mind for brands looking to navigate new and marketing campaigns. And knowing this, from week to week is very critical. Also things like metro stations are at risk of overcrowding, or there's even people that are trying to avoid metro stations or public transport. Another source of interesting data is sentiment. It has its limits, social media, mining and all that, but some companies are able to actually mine social sentiment in a diverse areas of topics and understand if they're trending upwards or downwards. So here you have a series of topics on the right, from where we divide the population in things like animal advocates, or people that like conservation of earth, or people that are like things that are more outdoors, that are live events or music events. And you can see how when the pandemic hit in February, March, the trend, the K-shaped, divided the world into, right? So how can we focus on targeting the ones that are still relevant and leave the ones that are less relevant for after lockdown? Here is just a map of Manhattan and the relative percent change of people that want to conserve the earth. Which was interesting after the pandemic and how we saw that, for example, CO2 levels went down after because we were using a lot of cars and stuff like that. And so how can we use these segments to our advantage in marketing? This is the same for live and local music events, right? So it's going downwards. It's blue, meaning that it's negative. So any venue that's relying on this is going to be really hard for them. But how can we shift and now use this to our advantage? There's a brand in the US in the Southwest called Sonic, and they sell burgers. And they had an interesting analysis of this data where their before stay-at-home rank was 22, and during and after the pandemic it changed. And what they were looking at is at these sentiments and see if per store they could capture more people that would order food from their homes. And they found that one of the biggest segments, them being in the south of the US, in the southeast, was praise and worship. So they catered their messaging to be more family-oriented and in those stores, and were able to, in a way, get to a sleeper audience that was always been there, but never really activated. In the workplace. So I touched on this in the beginning, but there's buildings now with shared workspaces within the building. All right, there's an article there. I put it, but new live-work flats where now you can commute with 0 minutes into your work. And then also there's a lot of co-working spaces like WeWork suffering from this, where instead of employees that have shared workspace meeting in downtown Manhattan or in Shoreditch, now they're actually meeting them closer to the homes in other places. And also there's a need to avoid mass transit for now, because people don't want to be with a lot of people in one place. So how can we capture that? Where is it affordable to walk to work and from? This is just a visualization about average monthly rent, around where you click and you get the rent around and see where exactly can you afford to commute or stack rank them, right, in order of priorities. The other one that for me is very new, but it's again, I think Maria mentioned it, and it's the K-shaped recovery of a lot of brands that do a lot of offline and a lot of now e-commerce. And Peloton is a good example where they are riding that wave on the top part of the K, because they got a lot of more influx. But there's brands that are perhaps luxury brands that are not riding that wave, and they're on the other one, and they need to really capture as much of they can from audiences. So there are some ways you can understand in a map how people are behaving online as well. So understanding, for example, and cross-referencing where there's searches for new homes, or where people are buying and entering those portals where they want to buy a new house. Where is that sentiment happening in the city of home buyers? Or where are there more where's the index of online shoppers? Is it more in the suburbs, more downtown? Can help us with the supply chain as well. As I was saying before, the new transit preferences. This is a chart of street congestions or traffic before and after, and you can see how different cities play it differently. For example, Shanghai barely changed, and then Wuhan changed a lot. New York changed a lot. But this can tell us very quickly how a city is. Are they back to normality? Are they still struggling? So, for example, Madrid, where I'm from, is still struggling, and in this chart. But now, probably if you look at it now, it's back to normal. So, getting this into your data pipeline fast, so that you can react on a global scale is very important for our clients. And the last one is you need to know where the world is, how it is now. You need to know where the stores are. You need to know if the barber shop around the corner closed, or is there a new one. So never has a POI have POI data been more important to be refreshed fast, right? So the POIs that we had in February won't be the POIs that we need today. And so, to summarize, what we need is a 360 view of our consumers as much as we can. And, there's different categories of data that can help us with that. At Carto, we've grabbed and made a very big catalog of all these data sets, if you're interested. And then also we make, like Sanjay was saying here, make a tool to help you understand not only the where do vegans hang out, right? But also the why. Why do vegans hang out here? So that's it. Because once you know the why, you can project it to the whole map and see where they are again and do targeting. So Carto is an integrated platform for location intelligence. We have a series of tools for analysis and creating apps like you saw in the presentation. And yeah, so thanks everyone, and yeah, this is it.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I'll request both the speakers to kindly join us. Uh, I'll start with a basic question. So, post-pandemic, how do you think the budgets of spending towards marketing and advertising has changed? Because now that people are not really coming to the stores, but we have to reach to them. So, how have the marketing and advertising budgets changed post-pandemic? I would request maybe you start.
I'll start. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. No, I think that's actually touched on a great point because I've seen a lot of customers shift their marketing to data. Like they can't use or they won't pay out-of-home media advertising companies during the pandemic because there's no people to see those ads. They're gonna say we have this huge budget of data that we have to of money that we have to spend, and I've seen it, and I've been told, Jaime, we have extra money, we want data, and that's for me that's it on data. I don't know.
Well, he said it all. Before it was production and media, now it's production, media, and data. So there's a third currency. The budgets have been, obviously, when the pandemic hit, everybody cut, protected. Now the budgets are coming back, but the budgets are split in three and not in two any longer. So
I would also say cut, but not cut completely due to still have brand equity when you come back in, of course. But also, as you said, more investment into data, into BI, and into learning as much about our customers as possible, so a lot about CRM.
Thank you so much. So as location, like you mentioned in your presentations as well, that location-based marketing and advertising is something which can be quantified, which one can understand the impact. So in terms of how has it increased? So what are the main reasons that people are leading this inclination towards location-based advertising and not just conventional advertising?
It's a matter of budget efficiency. I mean, we have to advertise where we know our target audience sits. So also due to the pandemic, where we need to be very precise in terms of our investment strategy. This is why also now for location, we have a higher investment, plus then also the more opportunities we have received from our partners and publishers also to connect online and offline. That's the main reason for us.
Anyone else? I think I'll have just one more question. So you talked about a lot of trends, but can we also talk a bit about the technology trends that in the span of next 2 to 3 years or maybe 5 years, what kind of technology trends do we expect in this industry to show up in terms of improving, marketing and advertising through location analytics?
You want to go first?
why not? I believe a lot of technology will be about predictions, because you just said it. What was right in February needs to be updated right now, but usually our investments go out in 2 months, so we have to know what's happening in 2 months, not what's happening right now, because that can change. So we have to do a lot of scenario buildings, AI predictions, machine learning, but it's kind of fun, because that pandemic, I know it's been worse, a horrible thing, but it sort of changed everything. And the future is, nobody knows. So prediction's going to be the key thing, I reckon.
I agree, and to add to that, I think the map is going to go away. Like, no, you don't want to see a map of the locations, you just want a list. You just want that to flow into the workflow and give you a recommendation. Call store manager A over here and tell him to push this product because in the area. But the map really, it's more about visualization, it's exploration, but not the what you need operationally. And what I've seen is a lot of investment in data engineering and data pipelines, so that whenever you're buying new data and acquiring it, that flows through the whole operation really fast. And so a lot of people they want to build those pipes as well.
Perfect.
Yes, as you said, we're also already now investing into predictive buying. So that's definitely a trend. We're already building first dashboards now. And then I would also say programmatic buying to automate as much as possible to be able to focus on the data and also the tech stack behind.
When you're talking about predictive modeling, we are basically answering to the question that what will happen. But is there a possibility that we move forward towards something to ask a question like how to make it happen and to make it more from from predictive to prescriptive tomorrow?
I mean, I can take the first stab. I think, of course, there's room for that, but honestly, it's still a very green industry. I think still people are just struggling to put everything on one place and analyze it. I think we need to focus first on siloing all these data sources that you have internally, and then perhaps acquiring third-party data, and then actionize it. And then after that, of course, do it on a prescriptive manner. But first, let's get the data in.
Does anyone in the audience have a question for our speakers? I'll take that as a no. So thank you so much, guys, for... Yeah, sorry, yeah.
There's a question for Jen and Marie. What you show that you are integrating data from different sources. How you deal with the data protection regulations with the privacy? So what you are doing to avoid that you are infringing the regulation?
I can take the first stab at that, and then from a data provider perspective, so we at Carto, we resell data, so we're very careful to not resell personal data. And we're a European company, so we have to abide by GDPR. I'll give you a quick example, and that's on mobility data, so the traffic of people. And for that, what we need to really avoid is giving any point location. We never do that. We always aggregate or receive aggregated data up to a scale that makes sense for the retailer, but it's also not revealing for a personal for a person. And what we do is that if there is for example, a square where there is less than 5 people, and then other characteristics, or it's in the suburbs, right, where you can really tell where a house is, we don't give that data, and we give disclaimers to the buyers, like, hey, this is what you get, but we cannot give you PII data for obvious reasons.
Yeah, for us it also varies by market. So in markets like US, I can be much more flexible, let's say, and try out a lot more than in Germany or France. And of course, we always adhere to the GDPR rights and so on. And for example, now in Germany, we work with hashed and anonymized data. So as you just said, we work with aggregated data, and we don't have any insights like average order value, or sometimes not even down to product level. So it really depends on the partner with whom we're working with. But yes, we have to adhere to these guidelines, and then the level of granularity very much varies based on the different market.
Yeah, and it's worrying sometimes when a client does ask you for that. You're like, hey, I want, location points, and you have to tell them no, because that's just not ethical at all. But there's people that want it.
Thank you so much, guys, for your time and for this amazing session. I'll request everyone. So we'll now move to the second session in about 2 to 3 minutes. If you guys want to grab a coffee or anything, you're most welcome, and we'll start in the next 2 to 3 minutes for the second session.